The situation in the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad agglomeration area and on the Ocheretyne section of the Pokrovsk direction remains difficult. The enemy has numerical superiority and is increasing its offensive efforts, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The units of the armed forces and other components of the defense forces of Ukraine in designated sectors continue to conduct defensive, as well as search and strike and assault actions, inflicting significant losses on the enemy. Over the past 10 days, Ukrainian troops in the Ocheretyne sector regained control over two settlements, Kucherev Yar and Suketsky. Since August 21, 2025, the situation in this area has been stabilized, control has been restored over 9 settlements, and another 9 have been cleared of enemy sabotage groups. In just the last 10 days, 1,756 enemy servicemen and 75 pieces of enemy equipment have been destroyed here. In a little over 2 months, the total losses of the enemy in the Dobropilya direction amounted to more than 15,700 servicemen and 1,364 units of weapons and military equipment, including 36 tanks, 121 armored fighting vehicles, 162 artillery systems, 5 MLRS, 447 vehicles, 592 motorcycles and quad bikes, as well as 1 special-purpose vehicle. A total of 4,689 various UAVs have been destroyed. The exchange fund of Russian prisoners continues to be replenished. As of October 26, 2025, Ukrainian forces have liberated 185.6 square kilometers and cleared 243.8 square kilometers of the Pokrovsk district in the Donetsk region. On the approaches to the city of Pokrovsk and within its limits, Ukrainian units carry out daily comprehensive measures to stabilize the situation. The enemy, using the interpositional space and infiltration by small infantry groups, has accumulated about 200 servicemen in the city. In Pokrovsk itself, small arms battles are ongoing, and UAV units are actively operating. Russian attempts to advance deeper and gain a foothold in urban areas are being suppressed by counter-sabotage measures. Ukrainian defenders continue to detect, eliminate, or capture Russian troops trying to infiltrate through combat formations. The fighting remains dynamic and intense. Recently, Russian forces have been increasing the use of armored vehicles in assault actions. From October 20 to 25, a total of 41 assaults involving equipment were recorded along the front line, some of them in the Pokrovsk direction. On October 25, 1 armored fighting vehicle and 2 motorcycles were destroyed near Pokrovsk, and another armored vehicle was destroyed in the Balahan area. All vehicles used by the enemy in these assaults were neutralized. Soldiers of the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, Skelia, have cleared the village of Yehorivka of Russian invaders in the Oleksandrad sector and raised the Ukrainian national flag there. According to Ukrinform, the Strategic Communications Directorate of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported this on Facebook and also released a video showing the regiment's combat operations. Clearing Yehorivka of enemy sabotage and reconnaissance groups in the Oleksandrad sector, the message reads. In the video, Ukrainian troops note that dozens of Russian invaders were eliminated both in the village and on its outskirts. The enemy is no longer present in Yehorivka in Dnipropetrovsk region. After the clearing operation, Ukrainian forces raised the national flag in the liberated settlement. The General Staff notes that Ukrainian soldiers continue to hold the defense and disrupt the enemy's plans. For the defense forces, the key priorities remain strengthening the resilience of defenses, coordination of actions, effective fire engagement, and countering enemy UAVs and artillery. A Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group infiltrated the center of Pokrovsk recently and carried out an attack that resulted in civilian casualties. Ukrainian defenders promptly detected and eliminated the saboteurs inside the railway station building. In September alone, Russian unit losses in the Pokrovsk direction increased by almost 30%. In the defense sector of the 7th Air Assault Corps, Ukrainian troops neutralized 1,851 Russians over the past month. The General Staff emphasizes that an intensive defensive operation continues in this direction. Despite enormous losses, the enemy continues attempts to break through Ukrainian defenses. The defense forces are conducting stabilization and counter-sabotage operations in the Pokrovsk district of the Donetsk region, both within Pokrovsk and its outskirts, as well as part of active defense along the front line.
A Russian federal television channel made a surprising admission. One of the Kremlin's top propagandists, Olga Skabeyeva, stated live on air that new US sanctions under Donald Trump are dealing a serious blow to Russia's ability to continue the war. Doesn't really look like a comrade to our country. The decline in our oil revenues is a key issue in the context of the Russian budget deficit. And war is an expensive affair, Skabeyeva said, effectively admitting that Russia's economy can't keep up with military spending. She stated that the US president's sanctions are depriving Moscow of key sources of income. They're deliberately and systematically extorting money from our country. Zelensky is hammering our refineries, and Donald Trump has imposed anti-Russian sanctions on our country's two main oil giants. Of course, both India and China will have problems. And if they have problems, who will we sell to? The propagandist said. She emphasized that what is happening cannot be called a trifle. It's not all that clear-cut. And it's hard to say that this is just another trivial, insignificant issue. No, of course, it's not a trivial issue, and it's not even insignificant, Skabeyeva stated. She thus also refuted the statement of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, who insisted that sanctions would have no effect on Russia. The new sanctions will not significantly impact our economic well-being, the Russian leader said on October the 23rd. Thus, one of the main figures in Russian propaganda has unwittingly confirmed that Trump's sanctions are indeed working. They are depriving the Kremlin of oil revenues, increasing the budget deficit, and calling into question Russia's ability to finance a protracted war against Ukraine. Recall, Kremlin spokesman Kirill Dmitriev made an emergency flight to the US capital and gave comments to Russian media right on the streets of Washington. His visit was Moscow's attempt to salvage dialogue with the Donald Trump administration after a sharp cooling of relations. Dmitriev stated that the language of pressure doesn't work in Russia's case, and emphasized that Russia's national interests must always be clearly taken into account by the United States. He asserted that economic cooperation between the countries is only possible with respect for Moscow's interests. The envoy claimed that sanctions and other restrictive Western measures would allegedly not have any impact on the Russian economy, and also threatened the United States with rising prices at gas stations. Dmitriev tried to blame Europe, including Ukraine, for the fact that relations between Russia and the United States are not working out. Dmitriev stated that during his current visit he intends to convey to the Trump administration that they cannot become Bidens. Dmitriev accused Kiev and the EU of disrupting peace dialogue and wanting to continue the conflict even though Russia itself refuses a ceasefire. According to media reports, Dmitriev is scheduled to meet with US Presidential Special Representative Steve Witkoff in Washington. This visit is a desperate attempt by the Kremlin to stem the deterioration of relations with Trump. The American leader, realizing that the Kremlin was uninterested in genuine peace talks and was demanding the impossible, complete control over Donbass, including territories to the Russian army had failed to capture, cancelled a planned meeting with Putin in Budapest. Following this, Trump imposed tough sanctions against Russia for the first time in his second term, hitting oil exports, the Kremlin's key source of revenue.